First contact. The night sky blazed with an unusual streak of light, catching the eye of Jake Foster as he locked up his small auto repair shop on the outskirts of Millbrook, a sleepy town nestled in the rolling hills of rural America. Jake, a tall man with calloused hands and a perpetual engine grease stain on his cheek, squinted at the phenomenon. It wasn't like any shooting star he'd ever seen. The object, whatever it was, seemed to be descending rapidly, its trajectory aimed somewhere in the dense forest that bordered the town. Jake's curiosity got the better of him. He hopped into his beat-up pickup truck and headed towards the woods, guided by the fading glow in the distance. As he navigated the rough terrain, branches scraping against the sides of his truck, Jake's mind raced with possibilities. Was it a meteorite? Some kind of experimental aircraft? He'd heard rumors of a nearby military base conducting secret tests, but this seemed different. Finally, he reached a small clearing and his jaw dropped. In the center of a smoking crater lay what could only be described as a spacecraft. It was sleek and silver, unlike anything he'd ever seen in movies or science fiction books. The vessel was relatively small, perhaps the size of a large car, with no visible windows or doors. Jake approached cautiously, his heart pounding in his chest. This was either the discovery of the century or an elaborate hoax. As he got closer, a section of the craft's smooth surface suddenly shimmered and became transparent, revealing a figure inside. What Jake saw next nearly made him stumble backward. The being inside was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was a pale lavender color that seemed to shimmer slightly in the moonlight. Large, almond-shaped eyes dominated a delicate face, and instead of hair, a crown of feather-like tendrils adorned its head. The alien, for that was the only word Jake's mind could supply, appeared to be unconscious or injured. Without thinking, Jake reached out to touch the transparent section of the ship. To his surprise, his hand passed through as if it were made of water. "Hello," Jake called out, his voice shaky. "Can you hear me? Are you okay?" The alien's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises of swirling gold and green. She, Jake realized, looked at him with a mixture of fear and confusion. She tried to move but winced in pain. Jake made a decision in that moment that would change his life forever. He couldn't leave her here, injured and alone. Carefully, he reached into the ship and lifted the alien into his arms. She was surprisingly light, and her skin felt cool to the touch. As he carried her back to his truck, the alien's eyes never left his face. She made no sound, but Jake could feel a slight trembling in her body. Whether it was from fear, pain, or something else, he couldn't tell. "It's okay," he found himself saying, trying to sound reassuring. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm here to help." He gently placed her in the passenger seat of his truck, noticing for the first time that she wore some kind of form-fitting suit made of a material he couldn't identify. It seemed to shimmer and change color slightly as she moved. As Jake started the engine, he realized the enormity of what he was doing. He had just made first contact with an alien life form and was now driving her back to his house. What would happen next? Should he call the authorities, the military, a scientist? No, he decided. For now, he would keep this to himself. The alien was injured and scared. The last thing she needed was to be poked and prodded by government officials or turned into a media circus. As they drove through the quiet streets of Millbrook, Jake kept glancing over at his extraordinary passenger. She had curled up in the seat, her large eyes taking in everything around her with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. "My name is Jake," he said, breaking the silence. "Jake Foster. Do you understand me?" The alien tilted her head, studying him intently. Then, to Jake's amazement, she spoke. Her voice was melodic, with an otherworldly quality that sent a shiver down his spine. "I understand," she said haltingly, as if testing out each word. "I am Zara." Jake's eyes widened. "You can speak English." Zara shook her head. "Not English, universal, translator, in my mind." Jake nodded, trying to process this information. A universal translator implanted in her mind. The technology of her species must be far beyond anything on Earth. As they pulled up to Jake's modest house on the edge of town, he noticed Zara wincing again. "Are you hurt?" he asked, concerned. Zara nodded slowly. "The crash. My body, not used to Earth's gravity." Jake helped her out of the truck and into his house, grateful that he lived in a secluded area with no nosy neighbors to contend with. Once inside, he gently laid Zara on his couch. "I'm going to get some first aid supplies," he told her. "Just stay here, okay?" As Jake rummaged through his bathroom cabinet, his mind was reeling. He had an alien in his living room. An actual, living, breathing alien. What was he supposed to do now? When he returned with bandages and antiseptic, he found Zara examining her surroundings with intense curiosity. She ran her slender fingers over the fabric of the couch, tilted her head at the ticking clock on the wall, and stared in fascination at family photos on the mantel. "Your world, so different," she murmured. Jake knelt beside her, unsure where to begin. "Can you show me where you're hurt?" Zara pointed to her side, and Jake noticed a tear in her suit revealing a nasty-looking gash beneath. As he cleaned and bandaged the wound, he couldn't help but marvel at the alienness of her anatomy. Her blood was a pale pink color, and her skin seemed to have a faint phosphorescent glow. "Thank you," Zara said softly when he had finished. "You are kind. Why help me?" Jake sat back, considering the question. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said finally. "You needed help, and I could give it. That's what we do. Well, some of us anyway." Zara's lips curved into what Jake assumed was a smile. "Fascinating," she said. "My people, we have studied humans for a long time. But never direct contact. You are surprising." Jake couldn't help but chuckle. "Well, you're pretty surprising yourself. I never thought I'd be patching up an alien in my living room." As the night wore on, Jake and Zara talked. He learned that she was a scout, sent to observe Earth as part of a long-term study of developing civilizations. Her ship had malfunctioned, causing the crash. She was supposed to remain undetected, but now that a human had discovered her, she wasn't sure what to do. "My people will come," she explained, "but it will take time. Until then, I am stranded." Jake ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "Well," he said, "I guess you'll just have to stay here until they come. We'll figure something out." Zara's eyes widened. "You would do that? For a stranger, an alien?" Jake shrugged, a small smile playing on his lips. "Why not? It'll certainly make life more interesting." As the first light of dawn began to creep through the windows, Jake realized he had spent the entire night talking with an extraterrestrial being. He had work in a few hours, but how could he possibly focus on fixing cars when he had an alien houseguest to contend with? "Listen, Zara," he said, stifling a yawn. "I need to get some sleep, and then I have to go to work. Will you be okay here by yourself for a while?" Zara nodded. "I will. Rest. Heal. Thank you, Jake Foster." As Jake headed to his bedroom, his mind swirling with the events of the night, he paused in the doorway and looked back at Zara. She had curled up on the couch, her feather-like tendrils splayed out around her head like a halo. In that moment, despite her alien appearance, she looked vulnerable and very much alone on a strange planet. Jake felt a surge of protectiveness wash over him. "Welcome to Earth, Zara," he whispered, before closing his door and collapsing into bed, dreaming of starships and lavender skin, cosmic cuisine and quantum quandaries. As the sun rose over Millbrook, Jake's alarm blared, jolting him from dreams filled with shimmering starships and alien landscapes. For a moment, he thought the events of the previous night had been an elaborate fantasy. Then he heard a crash from his living room, followed by a melodic voice exclaiming in a language he couldn't understand. Reality came crashing back. He had an alien houseguest. Jake stumbled out of bed, quickly throwing on some clothes before cautiously approaching the living room. The sight that greeted him was both comical and slightly alarming. Zara, the lavender-skinned alien he had rescued, was surrounded by the contents of his kitchen cabinets. Pots, pans, and various food items were scattered around her as she examined each object with intense curiosity. Currently, she was attempting to drink from a bottle of dish soap. "Whoa, whoa," Jake exclaimed, rushing forward to snatch the bottle from her hands. "That's not for drinking." Zara tilted her head, her feather-like tendrils rippling with confusion. "But it smells like food." Jake couldn't help but chuckle. "Yeah, they make it smell nice, but trust me, it's for cleaning dishes, not eating." As he began to tidy up the chaos, Jake realized he had a lot to teach Zara about life on Earth, starting with what was and wasn't edible. "Are you hungry?" he asked, realizing he had no idea what aliens ate. "What kind of food do you, consume?" Zara's eyes lit up, swirling with gold and green. "On my world, we absorb energy directly from our twin suns, but I find myself curious about Earth sustenance." Jake blinked, trying to process this information. "You photosynthesize, like plants." "Similar concept, different process," Zara explained. "But here, my body cannot process sunlight efficiently. I must adapt." Deciding to start with something simple, Jake prepared a bowl of assorted fruits. As Zara cautiously tasted each one, her reactions ranged from delight, strawberries, to disgust, lemons, to utter fascination, bananas, "You eat food," wearing protective coverings. As they shared this impromptu breakfast, Jake found himself bombarded with questions. Zara's curiosity about Earth was insatiable, and her perspective on things humans took for granted was eye-opening. "Why do you have hair only on top of your head?" she asked, reaching out to touch Jake's messy brown locks. Her cool fingers sent a shiver down his spine. Evolution, I guess," Jake mumbled, suddenly very aware of their proximity. "Why do you have those feather things?" Zara's tendrils rippled. "They are sensory organs. They help us perceive the world, detect energy fields, emotions even, quantum fluctuations." Jake's eyes widened. "Quantum fluctuations? You can sense those?" Zara nodded. "My people have evolved to perceive the fabric of reality itself. It's how we achieved interstellar travel." As Zara launched into an explanation of her species' quantum technology, Jake found himself both amazed and slightly overwhelmed. Her casual discussion of concepts that Earth's most brilliant physicists were only beginning to grasp made him acutely aware of the vast gulf between their civilizations. "Zara," he interrupted, glancing at the clock, "I hate to cut this short, but I need to get to work. Will you be okay here by yourself?" Zara's tendrils drooped slightly. "I understand. I will continue to study your dwelling." Seeing her disappointment, Jake had an idea. "Actually, why don't you come with me?" Zara's eyes widened. "But wouldn't that violate your promise to keep me hidden?" Jake grinned. "Not if we disguise you. Come on, I've got an idea." 30 minutes later, Jake pulled up to his auto repair shop with a very different-looking Zara in the passenger seat. They had managed to cover her lavender skin with makeup, hidden her tendrils under a beanie, and dressed her in some of Jake's old clothes. Large sunglasses concealed her otherworldly eyes. "Remember," Jake said as they got out of the truck, "if anyone asks, you're my cousin Zara, visiting from Canada." Zara nodded, her tendrils twitching beneath the beanie. Canada, a large landmass to the north, known for politeness, maple syrup, and hockey. Jake chuckled. "You've been studying, huh?" As they entered the shop, Jake's co-worker, Mike, looked up from the car he was working on. His eyes widened as he took in Zara's appearance. "Hey, Jake," Mike called out, a hint of suspicion in his voice. "Who's your friend?" "This is my cousin Zara," Jake said, trying to sound casual. "She's visiting from Canada." Mike raised an eyebrow. "Canada, huh? Whereabouts?" "Toronto," Zara replied smoothly, her melodic voice causing Mike to blink in surprise. "Right," Mike said slowly. "Well, nice to meet you, Zara from Toronto." As Jake busied himself with work, he kept a watchful eye on Zara. To his amazement and slight alarm, she seemed to have an innate understanding of the vehicle's inner workings. She moved from car to car, her hidden tendrils twitching as if sensing something invisible. "Jake," she called out at one point, her voice low. "This vehicle, its quantum alignment is off." Jake hurried over, confused. "It's what?" Zara pointed to the engine. "The molecules. They're vibrating at the wrong frequency. It's causing inefficiency." Skeptical but curious, Jake ran a diagnostic. To his shock, Zara was right. There was a subtle problem with the fuel injection system that his tools had barely detected. As the day wore on, Zara's uncanny ability to diagnose problems became increasingly apparent. Customers marveled at the speed and accuracy of the repairs, and even Mike seemed impressed. "Your cousin's got a real gift," Mike commented as they were closing up shop. "Where'd she learn to work on cars like that?" Jake fumbled for an explanation. She's really into quantum mechanics. Applies it to everything, you know." Mike shook his head, chuckling. "Quantum mechanics, huh? You Canadians sure are something else." As they drove home, Jake couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. "Zara, how did you do that? Those cars, you fixed things we couldn't even see." Zara's tendrils emerged as she removed the beanie, rippling with excitement. "Your vehicles. They're fascinating. Primitive, but elegant in their simplicity. I simply aligned their quantum states for optimal performance." Jake's mind reeled. "You can do that? Just adjust things at the quantum level?" Zara nodded. "It's basic manipulation of reality. All matter is interconnected. Energy flows, can be redirected." As Zara launched into a detailed explanation of quantum mechanics that made Jake's head spin, he couldn't help but marvel at the situation. Here he was, driving home with an alien who could perceive and manipulate the very fabric of reality, disguised as his Canadian cousin. What else was Zara capable of, and how would her presence on Earth change things? As the sun set over Millbrook, casting long shadows across the road, Jake realized that his simple life had become infinitely more complex and infinitely more exciting. Little did he know, Zara's quantum manipulations at the auto shop had not gone unnoticed. Miles away, in a secret government facility, alarms were blaring as sensors detected unexplained quantum anomalies in a small town called Millbrook. Quantum heartstrings and cosmic consequences. As the sun rose over Millbrook, painting the sky in hues of lavender that reminded Jake of Zara's skin, he found himself facing an unexpected dilemma. Over the past few weeks, his alien houseguest had become more than just a secret to keep. She had become a friend, and perhaps something more. Jake stood in the doorway of his living room, watching as Zara meditated. Her feather-like tendrils floated around her head, pulsing with soft light. The air around her seemed to shimmer, as if reality itself was bending to her will. "Zara," he called softly, not wanting to startle her. "I brought breakfast." Her eyes opened, swirling pools of gold and green that never failed to take his breath away. "Jake," she said, her melodic voice sending a shiver down his spine, "I have made a fascinating discovery about the quantum nature of your world's breakfast cereals." Jake couldn't help but chuckle. Zara's endless curiosity about the most mundane aspects of human life was endearing. "Oh yeah, what's that?" As Zara launched into an explanation about the quantum entanglement of cornflakes, Jake found himself marveling at how quickly she had adapted to life on Earth. She had an insatiable appetite for knowledge, devouring books and internet articles at an alarming rate. Her unique perspective on human culture and science had led to some enlightening conversations and some hilarious misunderstandings. "Zara," Jake interrupted gently, "I've been thinking. We can't keep you cooped up in the house forever. How would you like to see more of Earth?" Zara's tendrils rippled with excitement. "You mean beyond Millbrook?" Beyond your auto shop. Jake nodded, grinning. I was thinking we could take a road trip, see some sights, experience more of human culture. What do you say? Zara's response was to leap up and wrap Jake in a hug, her cool skin pressed against his. Jake felt a jolt of electricity run through him, literally. Zara's ability to manipulate quantum fields sometimes had unexpected effects on the physical world around her. As they packed for their impromptu adventure, Jake couldn't help but reflect on how much his life had changed since that fateful night when a shooting star turned out to be so much more. He had always dreamed of something extraordinary happening in his quiet life, but he never could have imagined this. They hit the road in Jake's old pickup truck, Zara once again disguised as his Canadian cousin. As they drove, Zara peppered Jake with questions about everything they passed: billboards, traffic lights, cows grazing in fields. Jake, she said suddenly, her voice taking on a serious tone, there is something I must confess. Jake felt his heart skip a beat. What is it? Zara's tendrils twitched beneath her beanie. My presence on your world, it may have unintended consequences. My ability to manipulate quantum fields, it leaves traces, detectable anomalies. Jake's grip tightened on the steering wheel. What are you saying, Zara? I fear I may have attracted attention, unwanted attention. As if on cue, Jake noticed a black SUV in his rearview mirror. It had been following them for the last 10 miles. Zara, Jake said, trying to keep his voice calm, I think we might have company. Zara turned, her otherworldly eyes widening behind her sunglasses. Oh no, she whispered. They found us. Jake's mind raced. Who were they? The government? Some secret alien hunting organization? Or something worse? What do we do? He asked, adrenaline pumping through his veins. Zara closed her eyes, her tendrils twitching beneath the beanie. I can create a quantum barrier. Hide us from their senses, but it will take all my concentration. Jake nodded, pressing down on the accelerator. Do it. I'll get us out of here. As Zara began to manipulate the quantum fields around them, Jake swerved off the main road onto a dusty sidetrack. The black SUV followed, gaining ground. Suddenly, the air around their truck began to shimmer and distort. Jake felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself was bending around them. In the rearview mirror, he saw the black SUV slow down, its occupants looking confused. It's working, Zara said, her voice strained. But I can't maintain it for long. Jake pushed the old truck to its limits, bouncing down the rough track as the world seemed to waver around them. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, they emerged onto another road. The black SUV was nowhere in sight. As Zara relaxed, the shimmering air around them faded. Jake pulled over, his heart pounding. That was intense, he said, turning to Zara. Are you okay? Zara nodded, but Jake could see the exhaustion in her eyes. I'm sorry, Jake. I've put you in danger. Perhaps it would be better if I left. Found a way to contact my people, return home. Jake felt a pang in his chest at the thought of Zara leaving. Without thinking, he reached out and took her hand. A spark of energy passed between them, and suddenly, Jake felt different, as if he could see the world the way Zara did, full of swirling quantum possibilities. No, he said firmly. We're in this together now. Whatever's coming, we'll face it as a team. Zara's eyes met his, and in that moment, something shifted between them. The air crackled with more than just quantum energy. Jake, Zara whispered, I'm experiencing a strange sensation. My cardiac functions are accelerating, my body temperature is rising, and I feel an inexplicable urge to be closer to you. Is this what humans call love? Jake's breath caught in his throat. He had been fighting his growing feelings for Zara, telling himself it was impossible, that the differences between them were too great. But in that moment, with the world shimmering around them and danger lurking behind, none of that seemed to matter. Yeah, he said softly, leaning in closer. Yeah, I think it is. As their lips met, The quantum barrier Zara had created pulsed and expanded, enveloping them in a cocoon of shimmering energy. For a moment, they were suspended in a bubble of space-time, where the laws of physics bent to the will of their newfound love. Unbeknownst to Jake and Zara, their quantum-charged kiss sent ripples through the fabric of reality, causing sensors to light up in secret facilities around the world. In the depths of space, on a distant planet, an alarm began to sound. The lines between human and alien, between the mundane and the extraordinary, had been irrevocably blurred, and as Jake and Zara's improbable love story unfolded, the fate of two worlds hung in the balance. Little did they know, their road trip had just become a journey that would reshape the cosmos itself. Quantum entanglement and galactic intrigue. The dusty highways of Middle America blurred past as Jake's pickup truck raced towards an uncertain future. Inside, the air crackled with an energy that was part quantum fluctuation, part unspoken tension between the truck's two occupants. Jake's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, his mind reeling from the kiss he had shared with Zara, a kiss that had literally sent shockwaves through the fabric of spacetime. Zara sat quietly in the passenger seat, her lavender skin shimmering faintly beneath her human disguise. Her feather-like tendrils twitched beneath her beanie, sensing quantum disturbances that were invisible to human perception. "Jake," she said suddenly, breaking the charged silence, "I believe we may have inadvertently created a pan-dimensional quantum resonance cascade." Jake blinked, trying to process the string of scientific jargon. "A what now?" Zara's otherworldly eyes met his, swirling with concern. "Our emotional connection combined with my abilities, it's causing ripples in the quantum foam of the universe, ripples that can be detected across vast distances of space." As if to punctuate her point, the radio in Jake's truck suddenly crackled to life, emitting a series of bizarre, alien-sounding tones. Jake quickly switched it off, his heart racing. "Okay," he said, trying to keep his voice calm, "so what does that mean for us?" Zara's tendrils drooped slightly. "It means we've likely alerted both your world's authorities and my own people to our situation. We may soon find ourselves at the center of an intergalactic incident." Jake let out a low whistle. "Well, when you put it that way, I guess we're in pretty deep, huh?" Despite the gravity of the situation, Zara couldn't help but smile. "Your species has a remarkable ability to understate dire circumstances. It's endearing." As they continued down the highway, Jake's mind raced with possibilities. They couldn't keep running forever. Sooner or later, they would have to face the consequences of their actions. But how do you explain to the world, to the universe, that you've fallen in love with an alien? Suddenly, Zara stiffened in her seat. "Jake, stop the truck. Now." Jake slammed on the brakes, bringing the vehicle to a screeching halt on the side of the road. "What is it? What's wrong?" Zara's eyes were wide, her tendrils writhing beneath her beanie. "A temporal anomaly. Something, or someone, is attempting to breach the space-time continuum." Before Jake could even begin to process what that meant, the air in front of their truck began to shimmer and distort. A swirling vortex of energy materialized, pulsing with otherworldly light. From within the vortex stepped a figure that made Jake's jaw drop. It looked like Zara, but older, with tendrils that glowed with an inner light and skin that seemed to shift colors like a cosmic aurora. "Greetings, past selves," the figure said, its voice a more mature version of Zara's melodic tones. "I am you from a possible future, and I bring a warning." Jake and Zara exchanged shocked glances. "A warning?" Jake managed to croak out. "About what?" Future Zara's expression turned grave. "The path you are on leads to conflict. Your love, beautiful as it is, has the potential to spark a war between our worlds. Unless you can find a way to bridge the gap between human and alien, to prove that love can transcend the boundaries of species and space itself." Zara leaned forward, her eyes wide with curiosity. How can we possibly do that?" Future Zara smiled enigmatically. "You must seek out the cosmic nexus, a place where the barriers between dimensions are thin, where the laws of physics bend to the will of consciousness itself. There, you may find the key to uniting our peoples. Jake's head was spinning. And where exactly is this cosmic nexus? Future Zara pointed down the highway. Continue on this path. Let your quantum entanglement guide you. You'll know it when you find it. She began to fade, the temporal vortex flickering around her. Remember, the future is not set. Your choices now will shape the destiny of two worlds. With that, future Zara vanished, leaving Jake and Zara alone on the side of the road, stunned into silence. After a long moment, Jake turned to Zara. "So, I guess our road trip just got a lot more interesting, huh?" Zara nodded, a mix of excitement and trepidation in her eyes. "Indeed, it seems we are now on a quest to save the universe through the power of love. Quite the escalation from our original plans." Jake couldn't help but laugh. "Yeah, I was just thinking we'd hit up the Grand Canyon, maybe see Mount Rushmore. Cosmic Nexus wasn't exactly on my itinerary." As they pulled back onto the highway, a new sense of purpose filled the truck. They were no longer just two star-crossed lovers on the run. They were on a mission to reshape the very fabric of reality, to prove that love could bridge the gap between worlds. The road ahead was long and fraught with danger. Government agents, alien pursuers, and the very laws of physics themselves stood in their way. But as Jake reached over and took Zara's hand, feeling that familiar spark of quantum energy between them, he knew that together they could face anything the universe threw at them. Little did they know, their journey to the cosmic nexus would take them to places beyond their wildest imaginations. From the hidden alien enclaves of Area 51 to the subatomic realms of quantum space, from the depths of Earth's oceans to the far reaches of the galaxy, Jake and Zara's love would be tested in ways no human-alien relationship had ever been before. As the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky in colors that reminded Jake of Zara's shifting skin, he felt a sense of anticipation building. Whatever lay ahead, whatever challenges they would face, he knew one thing for certain: their love had already changed the course of history. Now, it was time to see if it could change the future of the entire cosmos. The adventure of a lifetime, of many lifetimes, across multiple dimensions, was just beginning. And as Jake's old pickup truck rumbled down the highway towards destiny, the very stars themselves seemed to twinkle with anticipation of the cosmic love story unfolding beneath them. Quantum quests and cosmic conundrums. The neon sign of the Stardust Motel flickered intermittently, casting an eerie glow over Jake's weather-beaten pickup truck. After days of driving, guided by Zara's uncanny ability to sense quantum fluctuations, they had arrived at what appeared to be an ordinary roadside motel in the middle of the Nevada desert. But appearances, as Jake had learned, could be deceiving. "This is it," Zara whispered, her tendrils twitching with excitement beneath her beanie. "The cosmic nexus. It's hidden beneath this structure." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Under a seedy motel? That's not quite what I was expecting." As they approached the front desk, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The clerk, an elderly man with thick glasses and a shock of white hair, regarded them with an unnervingly knowing smile. "Welcome, travelers," he said, his voice carrying an odd resonance. "You've come a long way. The nexus awaits." Before Jake could respond, the floor beneath them began to shimmer and dissolve. They found themselves falling through a kaleidoscope of light and color, tumbling through dimensions beyond human comprehension. When the world stabilized, Jake gasped. They stood in a vast chamber that defied Euclidean geometry. Swirling nebulae and distant galaxies filled the space around them, while equations and symbols floated in the air like cosmic fireflies. "Whoa," Jake breathed. "This is incredible." Zara nodded, her disguise melting away to reveal her true luminescent form. The cosmic nexus. A place where all realities converge. A voice boomed around them, seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Welcome, Jake Foster and Zara of the Lumina. We've been expecting you." Her being materialized before them, or rather multiple beings that seemed to occupy the same space simultaneously. It appeared as a shimmering, multifaceted entity that hurt Jake's eyes to look at directly. "I am the Nexus Guardian," it said. "You seek to unite your worlds, to prevent a war that could tear the fabric of space-time asunder. But are you prepared for the trials that lie ahead?" Jake squared his shoulders, taking Zara's hand. "Whatever it takes. Our love is worth fighting for." The Guardian's form rippled, as if pleased by the response. "Very well, you must complete 3 trials. The trial of mind, the trial of body, and the trial of spirit. Only then can you receive the knowledge needed to bridge the gap between your species." Suddenly, the chamber around them shifted. Jake found himself alone in what looked like an enormous library, books floating in mid-air as far as the eye could see. "The trial of mind begins," the Guardian's voice echoed. "You must solve the riddle of infinite recursion. Find the book that contains the story of your own quest, as it's happening now." Jake's head spun. How could there be a book about their journey when it was still ongoing? He began to search, his mind racing with the implications of time loops and paradoxes. Meanwhile, Zara faced her own challenge in a vast arena of swirling energy. "The trial of body," the Guardian announced. "You must dance the quantum tango. Match your movements to the rhythm of the universe itself." Zara's tendrils flared as she began to move, her body flowing like liquid starlight as she attuned herself to the cosmic frequencies around her. Hours passed, or perhaps it was mere moments. Time had little meaning in the Nexus. Jake finally found a book that seemed to be writing itself as he read it, the words describing his very thoughts as he held it. Zara's dance reached a crescendo, her form briefly merging with the energy of the cosmos itself. As they completed their individual trials, Jake and Zara found themselves reunited in a featureless white void. The final trial, the Guardian's voice resonated. "The trial of spirit. You must prove the strength of your bond in the face of ultimate temptation." Suddenly, Jake was surrounded by images of Earth, his auto shop thriving, his name known worldwide as a brilliant inventor. He saw himself accepting Nobel Prizes, changing the world with technology reverse-engineered from alien science. Zara, meanwhile, saw visions of her homeworld. She was hailed as a hero, the one who had unlocked the secrets of human resilience and creativity. She led her people into a new golden age of exploration and discovery. But in both visions, they were alone, separated by the vast gulf of space and species. Without hesitation, both Jake and Zara turned away from the tempting images. Their eyes met across the void, and they reached for each other. As their hands clasped, the white void exploded into a riot of color and sound. They found themselves back in the main chamber of the Nexus, the Guardian beaming with approval. "You have passed the trials," it said. "Your love is true, transcending the boundaries of space, time, and species. Behold the key to uniting your worlds." A small crystalline object materialized between them. As Jake and Zara touched it together, knowledge flooded their minds. They saw a future where humans and Lumina worked together, their combined knowledge and abilities ushering in an era of unprecedented peace and discovery across the galaxy. "The path ahead will not be easy," the Guardian warned. "There are those on both your worlds who will resist change. But together, you have the power to reshape the cosmos itself." As the Nexus began to fade around them, Jake turned to Zara, his eyes shining with determination and love. "Ready to change the universe, alien girl?" Zara's tendrils curled affectionately around Jake's arm, her skin glowing with renewed purpose. "With you by my side, my quantum cowboy. Always." They found themselves back in Jake's pickup truck, parked outside the now ordinary-looking Stardust Motel. But they were far from the same people who had entered. They were now ambassadors of a cosmic love, armed with the knowledge to unite two worlds. As they pulled back onto the highway, the crystal humming softly between them, Jake couldn't help but grin. "You know, when I wished for some excitement in my life, I never imagined it would lead to this." Zara laughed, the sound like music to Jake's ears. The universe works in mysterious ways, Jake Foster. Now, let's go make some history. The truck rumbled off into the night, carrying with it the hopes of two species and the power of a love that defied the very laws of physics. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if aware that a new chapter in cosmic history was about to unfold. Little did Jake and Zara know, their greatest challenges and their greatest triumphs still lay ahead. But whatever the universe had in store, they would face it together, their love a beacon of hope in the vast expanse of space and time. Galactic diplomacy and quantum love. The crystal thrummed with otherworldly energy as Jake's battered pickup truck rolled into Washington, D.C. The nation's capital buzzed with an electric tension, as if the very air could sense the monumental events about to unfold. Jake and Zara exchanged a nervous glance, their hands intertwined on the worn leather seat between them. "You ready for this, Starlight?" Jake asked, using the affectionate nickname he'd given Zara after their cosmic nexus adventure. Zara's tendrils rippled beneath her holographic human disguise, a technology gifted to them by the Nexus Guardian. As ready as one can be when about to reveal the existence of alien life to the leaders of Earth, she replied with a wry smile. As they approached the White House, a squadron of black SUVs suddenly surrounded them. Men in dark suits and sunglasses emerged, their faces a mask of stern professionalism. "Mr. Foster, Ms. Zara," one of them said, opening the truck's door. "The president is expecting you." Jake couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. Just weeks ago, he was a small-town mechanic. Now he was being escorted to meet the leader of the free world, with an alien disguised as his girlfriend by his side. The Oval Office was smaller than Jake had imagined, but the weight of history within its walls was palpable. The president, a woman with steel-gray hair and piercing eyes, regarded them with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "So," she said, her voice sharp, "you're the ones who've been causing quantum anomalies across the country. Care to explain why I shouldn't have you both thrown in the deepest, darkest hole we can find?" Jake swallowed hard, but before he could speak, Zara stepped forward. With a shimmer of light, her holographic disguise fell away, revealing her true, luminescent form. The president's eyes widened, her composure cracking for just a moment. "Madame President," Zara said, her melodic voice filling the room. "We come before you not as a threat, but as harbingers of a new era, an era of cooperation between Earth and the stars." Over the next hour, Jake and Zara laid out everything: their chance meeting, their journey across the country, their trials in the cosmic nexus, and the knowledge they had gained. The crystal pulsed between them, projecting images of possible futures where humanity reached the stars, where diseases were cured, where energy crises were solved through the melding of human ingenuity and alien technology. As they finished their tale, the president leaned back in her chair, her face unreadable. "This is a lot to process," she said finally. "You understand that I can't just take your word for all this. The implications are staggering." Jake nodded. "We know. That's why we're here. We're offering full transparency, a chance for your scientists to study the crystal, to verify everything we've told you." The president's eyes narrowed. "And what do you want in return?" Zara's tendrils curled elegantly as she spoke. "A chance. A chance to prove that cooperation between our species is not only possible but essential for the future of both our worlds." After a long moment, the president nodded. "All right, you'll be taken to a secure facility. Our top scientists will examine your claims. If, and only if, they can be verified, we'll talk about next steps." As they were escorted out of the Oval Office, Jake felt a mix of relief and trepidation. They had taken the first step, but the road ahead was still long and uncertain. Over the next few weeks, Jake and Zara found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of tests, interviews, and examinations. The crystal was subjected to every analysis known to human science, and a few that were invented on the spot. Zara's biology was studied with equal fervor, though she drew the line at any invasive procedures. Throughout it all, their bond only grew stronger. In quiet moments between tests, they would sit together, fingers intertwined, marveling at the journey that had brought them to this point. "You know," Jake said one evening as they watched the sunset from the window of their secure quarters, "when I wished on that shooting star, which turned out to be you, I never imagined it would lead to all this." Zara's skin shimmered with amusement. "The universe has a way of exceeding our wildest dreams, my love." Their moment of peace was interrupted by a knock at the door. A stern-faced government agent entered. "The president wants to see you. Both of you. Now." They were ushered back to the White House, this time to the Situation Room. The president sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by military brass and civilian leaders. Her face was grave. "We've verified your claims," she said without preamble. "And in doing so, we've detected something else. Something approaching Earth at incredible speed. We believe it's a ship from your world, Zara." Zara's tendrils flared with surprise. "They're here, already?" The president nodded. "They'll enter orbit within the hour. I need to know, right now, are we facing an invasion?" Jake felt the weight of two worlds settle on his shoulders. This was the moment they had prepared for, the reason the cosmic nexus had gifted them its knowledge. He squeezed Zara's hand, feeling the familiar tingle of quantum energy between them. "No, Madam President," he said, his voice steady. "You're facing a new beginning, and we're here to help you negotiate it." As if on cue, the crystal between them began to glow, projecting a holographic image of Earth and the approaching Luminan ship. Streams of data and possible conversation paths flowed around it. "Well then," the president said, a hint of a smile playing at her lips, "let's make history." The next few hours were a blur of activity. As the Luminan ship entered orbit, sending waves of panic through those few who detected it, Jake and Zara worked tirelessly to establish communication. The crystal proved invaluable, translating complex quantum signals into something Earth's technology could understand. Finally, a face appeared on the screens in the Situation Room, a being similar to Zara, but older, with tendrils that crackled with energy. "I am High Counselor Zin of the Lumina," the being said, its voice resonating with power. "We have come in search of our lost explorer, and to determine if this world is ready for contact." The president stepped forward, her posture regal. "I am the President of the United States, speaking on behalf of Earth. We are ready for this dialogue, thanks to the extraordinary efforts of two individuals." As Jake and Zara stepped into view of the camera, High Counselor Zin's eyes widened. "Zara, you've integrated with these humans." Zara stood tall, her hand firmly clasped in Jake's. "I have, Counselor, and in doing so, I've discovered something wonderful, a connection that transcends species, a love that could unite our worlds." What followed was a negotiation unlike any in human history. With Jake and Zara serving as bridges between cultures, the groundwork was laid for a new era of cooperation. The Lumina offered advanced technology and cosmic knowledge, while humanity promised its creativity, adaptability, and the unique perspective of a young species reaching for the stars. As the sun rose on a new day, bathing the Earth in golden light, Jake and Zara stood on the White House lawn. Above them, the Lumen ship hovered, a testament to the new reality humanity was entering. "So," Jake said, a grin spreading across his face, "think we changed the universe enough?" Zara laughed, the sound like tinkling stardust. "Oh, my quantum cowboy, we're just getting started." As reporters clamored for statements and world leaders scrambled to adjust to this new cosmic paradigm, Jake pulled Zara close. Their lips met in a kiss that sent ripples of quantum energy cascading around them, a visual representation of a love that had reshaped the very fabric of reality. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, and those who resisted change on both worlds. But as Jake and Zara faced the future together, they knew that their love, a cosmic force that had already altered the course of two civilizations, was more than equal to the task. The universe, vast and wondrous, seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of what this unlikely pair would do next. And somewhere, in the depths of the cosmic nexus, the Guardian smiled, knowing that the greatest adventure in the history of two worlds was only just beginning.